Okay, so I'm in Ukraine still, and I would like you to consider supporting me while I'm here doing ministry. I'm preaching the gospel to the suffering in the world. The links are in the description down below. Again, as I say before, look in your heart at what God has done for you and the mercy that He's shown you, and then ask yourself, how can I show that mercy to others who are suffering? And that's what this is about. Now, I can't use my lapel mic today. I'm on location in this small village, and in traveling, it must have gotten damaged somehow, the cable. So there's induction of a signal that's noise, and I can't get that out. So we'll have to swing with this for now. So I'll be reading to you from Ecclesiastes 10 from the Septuagint. You can watch this video to find out why the Septuagint. You can also go to a link in the description down below called Old Testament, and you can download a free copy that's translated into English from the Greek. Now, here is Ecclesiastes 10, just a handful of verses, starting in verse 11. If a serpent bite, when there is no charmer's whisper, then there is no advantage to the charmer. The words of a wise mouth are gracious, but the lips of a fool will swallow him up. The beginning of the words of his mouth is folly, and the end of his talk mischievous madness. A fool, moreover, multiplies words. Man knows not what has been, nor what will be. Who shall tell him what will come after him? The labor of fools will afflict them, as that of one who knows not to go to the city. And we're going to hit this verse by verse so you understand what it's saying and how it is a cohesive unit. So let's talk about the first verse. If a serpent bite, when there is no charmer's whisper to tame and charm the snake, then there's no advantage to the charmer. It doesn't say if there's no charmer. It says if there's no charmer's whisper. So the charmer's not doing his job. Okay? It's time to do the job, and he's not doing his job. He's there, but he's not doing his job. With his mouth, notice, whisper, charming the snake. So if the charmer is not going to use his mouth to do what he's supposed to do, to affect what he's supposed to affect, then there's no need for him. And that's how he introduces the distinction between the wise and the foolish. It's about doing your job at the appropriate time in order to make an effect. The words of a wise mouth are gracious. Remember, this word means cheerful graciousness, right? Cheerfully gracious. So, of course, you need to consider your own words at this point, right? And you need to keep this in mind always, that when you speak, your words should first and foremost be cheerfully gracious. Okay? Because it says the mouth of the wise. The words of a wise mouth are cheerfully gracious. But the lips of a fool will swallow him up. Like you read in Jacob, aka James, where it talks about the tongue, and it lights a man's life on fire like a forest, and it itself is lit on fire by the fires of hell. The lips of a fool will swallow him up himself. The beginning of the words of his mouth is folly, foolishness. So this word is aphrosune. That comes from a and phren and sun. And a is without, and phren is mind, and sun is together. Okay, so you kind of get the idea that you're without putting your mind together. Okay, that's what folly is in the Greek, so that you understand that. So the beginning of the words of his mouth, the fool, is without putting the mind together, unable to put the mind together, right? Cannot put the mind together. It doesn't say thoughts. It could be implying thoughts, right? Of course, if your mind is not put together, you can't put thoughts together properly. So that's the implication, at least. And the end of his talk is mischievous madness. All right, so this word, madness, is periphery, where we get our modern phrase periphery. All right, so it's roundabout, like the edges, the limits. So it's someone who's always running around about the limits. It's what I have said multiple times in my videos. Stop walking on the curb or the sidewalk to see how far you can push it. To see, is this sin? Am I sinning yet? Is this sin? Is that sin? And you're going to get hit in the head by a mirror that's overhanging from a car, knocked in the street and run over. Or you're going to make a wrong step, slip and fall in the street and get run over. Walk in the middle of the sidewalk and there is no risk of getting hit by a car by falling into the street. So you're not walking in the periphery. But fools walk on the periphery. That's what it's saying. So I wouldn't translate it madness, but it's harmfully evil walking on the periphery. So it's got the word poneros, which is harmfully evil, and it is an adjective there describing the periphery. So they're walking on the periphery between normalcy and harmful evil. Like I said, you're pushing the limits, you're pushing the boundaries on the boundary of harmful evil. And over here is the sidewalk of good. And you're walking on that boundary between good and harmful evil, the periphery. So if I were to translate this right here, I'd say the end of his mouth is the harmfully evil periphery. That's where he ends up. So he may start somewhere on the sidewalk when he starts out with his words, but it doesn't look like it, right? The beginning of his words is without putting together the mind. But the end of his mouth is the harmfully evil periphery. So he may seem like he's here in among us, but you can tell because he can't put his mind together. And he ends up taking you in conversation with his mouth to the edge, the harmfully evil edge around the periphery. A fool, moreover, multiplies words. He can see you're not convinced and he starts using more words to try to convince you. Man knows not what has been. This is very important. Man doesn't really know what has been in the past. We tell each other we do. We look at things and we try to piece it together and put it together from the things that we can find and see and read and look at and decipher. But we can't see everything that was. And so we're only seeing these small snippets from history. No matter how many things we have, it's still just a small snippet. So man knows not what has been, nor what will be. We try to predict the future, we try to plan, we try to prepare, but we really do not know what will be. Who shall tell him what will come after him? So now he's referring to the prophet. There's one of them who tries to tell what will come after you. But no one can tell what will come after you. Like when you pass away off this earth, no one can tell you what will happen after that. No one. You have these speculations and these fantasies that are put forward in videos and things of this sort, but you really don't know. All right, so the labor of fools. This is labor, it's toil, really hard work. So the labor, the intensive effort that fools, those who are without the ability to put the mind together, will afflict them, will chop them. That's what the word literally means, like an axe. Chop, 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 chop forward. As that of one who knows not to go to the city. Now, in those times, the cities were a place of protection when the enemies attacked or wild animals. And the fool who cannot put things together, they can't put this together with this and know what the consequence will be. They don't know to go into the city. And so they don't know to go into the protection at the right time, the place to be at the right time. So don't follow a fool, because a fool cannot put together with the mind and know what he should do in order to avoid bad consequences. So there's a lot to think about here. I would suggest listening to the video again. First, listen to it, just listen. Second, listen to it again and take some notes. And then ask yourself from your notes, say, how can I do this? And how can I know that I've done this after I've done this? May the Lord bless you as you seek him with all your heart.